Miami, 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 Miami. It feels like Miami.
Welcome to the Miami Heat Beat podcast. With me today, Tiffany, Meeks.
What's up? Carla Tiana, you right. Somebody help Asia. Somebody, anybody.
Simba from Lion King voice. I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Franky G with you guys, Tiffany Meeks extraordinaire. We got a special guest freed from the pitfalls of 5 Reasons Sports.
He in the multiverse.
He's out of the grasp. We have his film rights today. Eternal Bast.
Look behind him. He in the multiverse.
His camera's gonna get cut, and Tronky Baby's gonna be
look, Frankie, Dr. Strange looking motherfucker. We gotta get you. You know that. It's all love.
I'm waiting for Brady Hawk to pop in with the Men in Black camera. The flash. This never happened. How you doing, Eternal? Thanks for joining us.
Hey man, you know it's always a pleasure. I'm a little salty because I'm like, damn, I ain't did shit with y'all, but all year basically. I thought we had a special thing going.
Like Terry Rozier, the keys under the mat.
Like
Is it?
They keep changing the locks, and Terry's like, I got a key.
What's that the old folks used to do? They used to play the numbers. Those are under the mat too.
Yeah, they got no luck. Eternal's lending us his time and his energy to talk a little bit about this Barry Jackson report. If you haven't seen it, Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald and his 5 other Barry Jacksons do a great job representing Miami sports, and since 2023, been a bit of a troll. Since the Damian Lillard trade speculation, he's really enjoyed himself, and he keeps it funny on Twitter now, and not used to so much personality, but he keeps it real. That's one thing I never doubt Barry, and he dropped this report here, so we're going to talk about it. Let's read this first quote here about the plan. According to people with direct knowledge, Miami's intention is to let our young guys show what they can do and see what this team looks like with Eric Spoelstra having a full training camp with the Jimmy Butler distraction in the rearview mirror, and with first-round pick Kasparas Yakuchonis added to a core of young players that the organization believes has a high upside. And now, look, guys, I'm going to have to toot my own horn because I had it first. This is from 2 weeks ago. I said, we believe giving this roster and coaching staff a full training camp together will bring out the best in them. This is, you can see it dated, time and dated. I had it first. Now, Tiff, we've discussed this. We think this is one of the better routes to go to really lean young.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, do you believe that this is what they're going to do and that this is what they want to do?
It's funny because I believe this is not what they want to do, but I believe that this is what they've got backed into a corner and they got to do. So that's what I think. I think that they've got backed into this corner where it's like, this is what they should do. But with that being said, then you have to play the guys. Like, we get it. You're saying we're going young. Okay, so going young means I really shouldn't see. I shouldn't see Terry. I shouldn't see Wiggins. You know, for all intents and purposes, Haywood, Love. Like, there are just a lot of guys that just should not be in the rotation, and not because they can't play, but just because we already know who they are. We don't really, we haven't seen a full season of a lot of these young guys, but then, like, here's the other turn to it. If you're keeping Jaime, I need a season of him actually playing. I need to see what he's worked on, what he's developed, barring last season, because first season, second season was Jekyll and Hyde. So it's like you don't know what the older young man could give you in his third season, right? So you want to see more of that. You want to see more Cash Jaku. You want to see what all these players can do. Yeah, him being a rookie, but you got to get him out there. Where should be out there giving you, 28 to 30 minutes. Like you got to see those things. Yo, I love slow-mo though. That's my guy. But I'm just saying, I think they got backed into a corner, and I think it's probably the best thing that could happen.
I agree. Okay, Eternal, your thoughts?
I think Miami is definitely going to lean young. I think every bit of their moves that they have made up to this point has kind of signaled that. When you go back to the KD trade, that they didn't offer everything for KD, reasonably so for a 37-year-old, and you're not in position to compete for a title. It didn't make sense to sell off the very limited asset pool that you had. If you weren't going to be able to make the move that Houston has made post KD, right? Like Houston has kept majority of their team intact and still had riches to spare, and Miami wasn't going to be able to do that. So, it makes a lot of sense, right, for them to pivot off of the Jimmy Butler era when majority of your team is young. Khalil just turned 21. Nico is about to turn 22. You got 25-year-old Tyler, 28-year-old Bam. They just drafted a 19-year-old. You got 24-year-old Jaime Jaquez. I believe Pella is like 23. So like majority of the team is young now. Out, excluding Kyle Anderson, Kevin Love, Andrew Wiggins, Terry Rozier, hell, even Drew Smith and Haywood are in the Bam age bracket. But again, like Tiff said, you know what they are. And at this point right now, it's looking like a gap, like a punt year for Miami, and you need the space and opportunities for these young players to show if they are going to be a part of the long-term building or short-term building of what you're going to do. So it makes more sense to lean on.
Oh, absolutely. And I think those guys, what value those guys have right now isn't good enough to get you to win you trades. And brings us to our next point here. Part 2 of the plan is to try to quickly pounce if an in his prime star or very good player becomes available in the trade market. It has been widely reported that Giannis Antetokounmpo will be a Heat target if he asks out of Milwaukee, and that's very likely. Whether the Heat has enough assets to compete with Houston, the Spurs, and the Knicks in a bid for the 2-time MVP remains questionable. Now, I don't think those guys, I think even if the Heat somehow find a way to unlock all their picks and cashed everybody, I think they still need a cash Bam as well to compete with some of these guys, because these teams have stockpiled assets, namely the Houston and the Spurs. Houston is sitting on a trove of the Phoenix picks. So the Heat's way to get into this, if they don't want to include Bam, which we'll get to later, they have to have these guys really pop, and where Nico, these guys are still unproven guys, and we like them. We want to believe in them and stuff. But right now, we don't know what their ceiling is. That's right. They're lottery tickets right now. Right. And Tiff, do you think this part of the plan is realistic as well?
So I think because we don't know what these guys are, so it's kind of crazy. Even let's just say that a couple of them pop and you got picks. You're not beating the other offers on the table. First of all, you're not getting in the room if you don't put either Tyler or Bam in the conversation. So that's the thing. Then do you think bringing in Giannis and Tyler, what do you think that is? Or would you rather have Bam and Giannis? Like, those are all the things you really have to think about, because I personally look at it like this. If you have enough to grab one of these guys, if you trade Bam, you don't have enough, because I don't see how any of these guys want to come and not have Bam next to them.
I agree.
Like one of the top defenders in the league. So if I'm Giannis, I need him. Right? if I'm any of these, and honestly, how many top guys are there?
Yeah.
5. Like,
Yeah.
so if you're any of these 5 dudes, you need him on the court next to you. So it's kind of like it's kind of like we're shopping, but we may have to put shit on layaway.
And it brings up what this commenter from YouTube Ferris says. But by trading all of our picks and bam, what makes us better than the Bucks?
And
Exactly.
it doesn't. That's my whole point.
What makes these teams want to go around that? Like flipping Bam with Giannis and not having other ways to improve. I don't really think that does anything for you. But Eternal, your thoughts on this?
I think that is already. I think when you're talking about Giannis and somebody that's in the top 5, like to Tiff's point, I don't think it's Bam. I think it's Tyler and the rest of the young players. We saw Tyler already be available for Dame some years ago. When you're talking about Giannis and who you're going to pair him with is going to be Bam. So at that point, it's what you're going to get out of Nico, what you're going to get out of Khalil, Jaime, Pella, Cash, and Tyler. And building off of that in Miami, making moves like the Wiggins move to get a first round pick back, or maybe Dalton Connect or whatever else you can get back.
Mm-hmm.
If you are able to get a Kuminga, that's somebody else that would be included, that makes your war chest a little bit bigger and more palatable for the teams trading with you. And I think, that's probably what Miami is. Not probably. That's clearly what Miami is doing by shopping Andrew and shopping Terry. Is to the Terry part is to kind of clear up the cap in room space
in the roster spot. Yeah.
Right.
And Andrew and got to think Haywood will be a part of the deal. Anybody that could possibly make a team better in contention, in Miami recouping some assets back to build up their war chest would be for a move like a Giannis and maybe a Ant if you don't like the way things are going in Minnesota, and, shit like that. So, yeah,
I think we also have to be realistic and be honest about because dudes are maybe making themselves available doesn't mean Miami is on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm leaving this situation, why am I walking into this?
You would have to be really sold on.
You can't be sold on anything. It's not about being sold. You literally have to every part of your body and being has to believe that they are closer than the other 20 teams that want you. Especially if you're a star with no ring.
Yeah. And Tiff, it's something we've also talked about. They just had a 5-6 year span with Jimmy, and they proved that they couldn't get another star there.
Right.
You're gonna cash out to get me, and then you're gonna tell me you're gonna get me help when you couldn't do that with more picks. How am I supposed to trust that? At this point, I don't think they're quite the gem they used to be.
Right.
And I want to get to this next point because this was my favorite point because I definitely knew they were going to do this as well. The Heat believes it cannot accurately judge last season's post-Butler roster because of the chaos that Butler created. A change in roles for different players, Andrew Wiggins' ankle injury, and other factors. And I'm sorry, man. Jimmy blame is crazy still. I've heard them blame Jimmy for more seasons than I've heard them say they fucked up.
Right.
And I feel like there's for a team that praises and looks for accountability, they're severely lacking it in themselves. What do you think about this, Tiff? Oh, let me go to Eternal first.
Yeah, go ahead, Eternal.
What do you think about them looking for Jimmy as their fail-safe here?
All right, man. Look, I can be honest. The season over with. The vibes was crazy in the locker room. I'm gonna be honest with you. For people that don't know and not familiar with me, I have covered some games this season. at different points of the season, like when Jimmy was on the team and when Jimmy was not on the team, or when Jimmy was being talked about traded and things of that nature. And the vibes in the locker room were weird. It was weird as fuck, in before and afterwards. And so you can kind of tell that things were kind of weighing on guys, and like talks in the background, the back channels of like what really happened and things of that nature. And it got messy. It got really, really, really messy. And you could tell like that affected guys not only on the court but off the court as well. There were some beefs between Jimmy and some guys. Whenever that comes out, that'll come out. But I do agree that in some parts that did play a role, and then in some parts it didn't. Now the Andrew Wiggins shit, if that was I don't think Andrew wanted to be traded. His body.
Are you saying to the Heat?
I just from the Warriors period.
Right.
His body language just didn't, and that some of that could do with, you know what I'm saying, maybe the grief he was dealing with his father passed, and then just like what he had built up in Golden State, and you know all of that. And I had forgotten this thing we were doing playback, or maybe something with Ethan, where it was 17 games that Andrew had played before going to the Heat, right? The season at that point was 40 plus games deep at that point. You know, so out of 40 plus games, he only played 17 of them. So, and you go back to the emotional moment of when he found out he was traded. Steve Kerr and the team were crying, you know, when they sent him off and all of that. Yeah. So it didn't feel like Andrew really felt comfortable in Miami. And I don't think that had anything necessarily to do with Miami themselves, just
right. You know, I mean, you could like the Wiggins part of that trade definitely felt like the locker room in Golden State didn't want to give up Wiggins, and the front office the locker room probably preferred like Kuminga, and the front office probably preferred Wiggins because of the age difference and stuff like that. But no, I don't think all of it is all of this quote and the blaming Jimmy is like for shame. But I think they're leaning a little bit too much on it, because like we saw on the court how the talent looks. Like Jimmy or no Jimmy, they didn't have shooting. They lost their best shooter.
They didn't look great at the beginning of the season.
Right.
Like it's one thing to know, like we all know, I'm sure behind closed doors it was chaos.
Yeah.
Because guess what? It definitely was.
You invite the circus. You invited the circus to town.
But here's
the ringleader is your best player.
At the end of the day, once he left, there's the opportunity to start anew. So the post Jimmy is like he was gone.
Yeah.
And what you put on the court is what you put on the court.
100%.
Just inconsistent performances, lacking detail. You know, that's the thing. You weren't playing team ball. You weren't running. You weren't playing defense on the string. You weren't gang rebounding. You were throwing the ball away. There was just a lot of things happening where you could say whatever you want if you had beef with Jimmy, but Jimmy didn't have anything to do with you dribbling that shot clock down to 5 seconds and then passing the ball. So it's twofold. I can see how there was a lot of disruption. And then I can see how when we won that game after he left, how it looked like, oh, the air has been cleared. They are like, there's just players on this team that are who they are. Like some things are just not going to get better. And that's okay, because that's a lot of players in the league. But like the fact that like you're getting blown by on defense, that ain't got nothing to do with Jimmy.
Yeah. But
like, we got to stop.
And to your point, Tiff, like this stuff about Jimmy, like if you didn't want, like people are who they are, they expected Jimmy to be different than who he's always been. Every time he's left the spots because he felt disrespected by the contracts and stuff and all that, and they went into that last season expecting to disrespect him, and they brought that upon themselves. That's why, like, I think both parties are at fault there. Jimmy in the front office. I think I would love the front office to like acknowledge that they're also at fault here. But I also want to get to this last point here. Meanwhile, a source with direct knowledge said the Heat have given no consideration to trading Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro and essentially starting from scratch with a treasure trove of picks that likely could be acquired by dealing Adebayo. The Heat believes that tanking, stripping the roster with the hope of a bright future, fails more often than it works. That is not a philosophy the organization plans to rethink. That last line, I'm not even asking for strip it all down to the bare bones and everything like that. Like, I know that he don't want to do that, and I don't even bother like pretending they ever will. But like to not even acknowledge that their philosophy it isn't gonna work the same way it's worked, or that they're the biggest reason they've had success was because they had to tank 2 seasons in 02-03 and 01-02 to get Karan and Dwayne, and then in 07-08 when they got injured and tanked and they reset their books with all those trades. That ended up giving them the trade space for the free agent cap space for LeBron and Bosch. Like, the fact that they don't acknowledge that that's the real reason they got those guys and they got all their success is mind-blowing to me.
Go ahead, Eternal.
Go ahead,
Eternal. I see your face. Go ahead.
They play a good game. I get it. Because I mean, we were just talking about this before we came on, right? Like, I do think media literacy from the consumer and fan point of view has to be higher than what it is. Sometimes you just have to be able to read through.
Of course,
like, oh, okay, that's bullshit. Okay,
yeah,
because your moves and what you're doing doesn't line up.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Like, anybody that followed the Heat as the season was going on, especially at the end, it was very clear they didn't want to get into the lottery because they didn't want to sacrifice 2 picks. If it didn't have shit to do with the 2 picks, they would have probably went ahead and went into the lottery, right? But like even the talk in the locker room, like amongst the media people, not the Heat people, media people that knew, like, they did not want to give up like the 2 picks to OKC and to Charlotte, which would have been unprotected if they would have got into the lottery. So it was just basically a chess move. And to be honest with them, I didn't agree, right? Just because of the talent pool that this lottery was, but they just got a top 10 pick at 20. Now, that didn't have shit to do with them. It didn't have a damn thing to do with them, but like, they got rewarded by the basketball guys for not doing it. But
that's exactly how they think, Eternal. That's exactly how they think too.
I think even with the leaning young thing, right? Like, chill, Franky, if they lean young, even with some of the experience that you have with Bam and some of the other guys on the roster, like, your team isn't going to miraculously, even if Cass wins Rookie of the Year, your team ain't going to be a four seed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even if Khalil pops, even Nico pops, your team ain't going to be a 4 seed. If they pop, you're going to top out probably at 6 or 5.
Right.
And you're probably going to go out in the first round unless you pull out some 07 Golden State shit and go to the second round. You ain't making no further than that, bro. But you're not going to see a lot of wins. The bottom half of that, you're probably going to find yourself in the late lottery, luckily, in the top lottery. But if you lean young, that's probably what's going to happen. It's what they're saying is, we're not going to on purpose put the worst team out there. You know what I'm saying? Because not, their philosophy is to compete, and they did that at the end of the season. Like, those guys in the locker room, they still wanted to win. That's just what they are. They're going to compete regardless of how fucking shitty terrible they are.
And that's where I'm questioning Spo, because we've seen him, and like I know they're trying to win, so sometimes Ware isn't going to play the fourth quarters and he's not going to close, and some because slow mo's a little bit more reliable to not be a negative at times, stuff like that. That's where I'm really questioning if we'll see a change, because they're telling this stuff, and if I see in the fourth quarter Terry playing the full fourth quarter, or Kalal having a nice game, Nico having a nice game, and then not even getting a shot to close, that's where I'm gonna know the truth is Spo is not aligned with the front office with this messaging, and this is some bullshit, because that's where it starts with.
I think you can make that case, and I passed it to Tiff. I think you can make that case last season. I think this season is a totally different ball game. Spo made his push for KD. He didn't get that. But he talked very highly of Nico. He talked very highly of Khalil. He pushes hard on them because of what he expects out of them. That's on camera, that's off camera. I can tell you that. But I mean, he gives the young guys an opportunity. The way he coaches, the way his style of teaching is, you have to earn it, because I'm trying to iron out all of the bad tendencies that you have. Now, I will my only pushback on that with Spo is you give a lot of fucking leash when it comes to the Dwayne Dedmons and the Terrys of the world. But I think on the other side of that for him is, I don't want to give up on you and make you feel worse and not be able to pull you back from that abyss. I guess from like the coaching, teaching standpoint of that, that's where that comes from. But he showed that he leaned into Nico in a playoff game. You know what I'm saying? In the fourth quarter, like Nico hadn't played in months, came and played then. So he's going to give guys opportunities. It's just what you do with those opportunities.
Yeah, I think some of that is very valid. Like, of course, like, but exactly what you push back with, it was like, it was just a little bit too much of a leash for the guys making horrible mistakes time and time again. Like we all saw that Cleveland Cavs game with Terry Rozier, where if the FBI hadn't seen it, that's all the evidence you need, and that should have shut that shit down forever. But he was getting the full fourth quarter minutes, no matter if he was a minus 15, blowing leads and shit. And that's where I'm just like there was way more time. There was a lot of times to turn on. I know you peeped this when Ware was having a good game and Spo would go small and not trust it. We saw Nico, Bam, and Ware played like 30 minutes on the season together, and they didn't even try that shit again. And it's stuff like that. Like Spo, I think Spo, for as much as he's earned with the flexibility and like the reinventing shit, I feel like the positionless basketball stuff, to your boys Sean's credit, he doesn't lean very positionless in some of these things. He doesn't think outside the box. He's very square hole, square box for some of these guys. And I'd like to see him be a little bit more flexible with those guys. Like, give him avenues. I think Kaz is, in my opinion, Kaz is the ultimate litmus test, because Kaz had a very high turnover issue adjusting to the speed of American basketball and college basketball and the length. And I think if he's having those turnover issues in the league, I wonder if Spo's going to stick with him like consistently, or are they going to send him to the G League? He's going to get a couple games off to get his mind right. I wonder what's the plan. That's where I'm really going to see, like, that's where I really feel the test is going to come with Kaz specifically. But Tiff, I want to get your thoughts on all this as well.
I mean, I guess the other part that nobody's talking about is that we also got to wonder, are Bam and Tyler okay with these young guys playing?
Yeah.
Because that's the other part. Like, you've been a part of teams who've been to the championship. You've been to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, you've consistently won, right? So you've been a part of winning. Now, are you going to be okay with these young guys coming in and they're going to make mistakes, and they're going to make a lot of mistakes? Like, that's the other part. Like, are they going to be able to find that balance where you have Tyler and Bam, but we got to play these other guys? Because one, you got to play the other guys because this might be the team.
Yeah.
Two, you got to play the other guys because if you're saying we are waiting and lurking for a star that's going to be hanging out in the weeds, then we got to put some tape out there for these young guys to show what they can do.
Absolutely. And ultimately, when I heard this plan from Barry Jackson, it reminded me of one of my favorite movies, a quote here from Parasite. You know what kind of plan never fails? No plan at all. You know why? If you make a plan, life never works out that way. That's where I'm like, Like it honestly just feels like to me, this plan reads as we're going to go with the flow. We're going to try the young guys out because it's a little bit more variety and stuff. And I will fully believe they lean into the young guys when I see it. Multitude of games. Because we also saw they were going to lean into the starting lineup, and that lasted about 3 games. And this playing style with full 5 out and stuff like that. They really didn't lean into it that far. So expectations are different. They don't owe this pick to anybody. It's fully theirs. No commitment. So they have some avenues to explore. Will they shop Bam at some time? I don't believe that. Will they shop Tyler? I think eventually with the contract dispute, if they can't agree, which is why I'm kind of like, if you should learn from the Jimmy mistake. And I'm interested in your thoughts on this, Eternal, because you're shaking you're laughing a little bit, but I'm interested in this because if how far apart Tyler and the Heat are in negotiations here. I know the Heat are much more of a fan of Tyler Herro than some of us on this panel are, if not all of us. But if they feel this way about Tyler and they're not going to, they're nowhere close on the money, this should be shopping time. But I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. Eternal, your thoughts?
Go to Tiffany first.
Miss Meeks?
Here's the thing. I don't care who pops. You won't have enough to get a star that's waiting. You got to move somebody. That's it. One of those, I just think that if you are trying to actually build and construct a team, one of those guys have to move. And I'm an inside out type of person. So I'm constructing my team with Bam on the inside, and I need a point guard on the outside. Those are the first 2 things that I'm moving
to. Tell more of the truth. Go on. Give it all out.
So that's how I look at it. When you are constructing a team, those are the first 2 things you need. You need a man on the inside and a man on the outside. So those are the first 2 things. After that, I need a third person who can play with both. And I don't mean I got to teach you how to play off ball. I got to teach you how to play on ball. I need you to come bearing fruit.
Yeah.
Because we've already saw Bam get to the mountain twice, but not drink from it. So if you're doing this, then you need to be actually doing it. So you get what you can get, and no shade, no tea for Tyler. And hopefully it's mostly picks and expirings.
Yeah.
And roll into next year.
And I think the danger of them waiting on that is that they're not going to be dealing from a position of strength. And we've seen how that's hurt them in negotiations. We've just saw it with Duncan, where where Detroit was desperate for this. They lost Beasley, who they were really counting on, and they have their picks to trade, and they still couldn't get a second from them. So I don't trust them negotiating as much as I did. Granted, I didn't think they were going to end up getting a pick for Jimmy, and they did much better on that than I hoped, because of how long they waited. But we've seen a lot of times where they're selling low on guys, and right now for Tyler's career this past season, not only with the performance, but with the games played. Right. Those are outliers. That is a complete outlier of a season. I think the style of play, I think he's completely capable of doing that again, because it was mostly shot selection change, IQ based changes that a lot of us have been begging for years, and it finally came to fruition. But the injury part, man, he's been pretty fragile. We saw him run out of gas towards the second half of the season, have a pretty long struggle shooting, lost a lot of legs there, and struggled in the postseason because of all the attention. And granted, he's not a real number one option, but we saw some of that like wear on him, and I think the Heat need to consider that if they want to build with him, they have to take this serious. If they're not going to give him the money that he wants, they need to take that serious too. Now, Eternal, we've wavered enough. Let's get your thoughts.
Let's see here. I think honestly, and I have an actual a bet with somebody. I think Tyler does not make it to game 1 of the season.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah. I say this because Tyler just played the most games of his career after playing the least amount of games of his career. Just had the best efficiency of his career, right? Like, well, probably not the best. I think his 6-man year is still the best efficiency, but he had a uptick in numbers. But as we have seen with Pat Riley and just the Heat organization, the playoffs tell, right? And one thing that came out to me was how Pat talked at the presser. He talked about a couple of things. It was like Kendrick Lamar's euphoria, right? Like, it's been following the timeline of what he said. He talked about KD, or Asian star. Ethan scolded him for 5 reasons, asked him about managing an Asian star. He talked about that, and also talked about an alpha, and Bam and Tyler not really being alphas like that, but I'm an alpha. Like, he in the very nicest way just said those ain't the guy. They ain't the guy, right? So we should probably get a guy. Maybe that's an Asian star. Maybe we can get him for a certain price out or whatever. That was KD, and we saw what happened with that. They didn't go all the way with KD. And so the next part of that is him talking about changes, and there being changes. There may be some lateral moves, some shit like that happens, right? But there being some changes. We're not going to rip it. I don't know how he got riveted from that, but
I didn't hear that clip until Leif posted it the other day. I was like, what the fuck is Leif talking about? Ribbit.
But he made it very clear that there was going to be some changes, right? Like, if people just really just took what they saw, he made it clear that there was going to be some changes. And I think from the Duncan stuff, from them shopping Andrew and Terry, they're obviously trying to make some changes, whether they be lateral or whatever, right? So I think on the Tyler front, because of how teams have been moving within the new CBA, we saw this last year, right? When the whole new CBA got announced, we knew some changes were coming for teams. Changes they either wanted to make or changes they had to make just to survive, right?
Right.
You see what the Grizzlies did with Desmond Bain right after the playoffs. You see what happened with Jordan Poole. You see what happened with Jalen Green. You see, like, you got like at least 6 of the same archetypes.
Anthony Simons.
With guys that are, theirs is a little different because he can't play defense. He's just not a defensive stopper. But if you aren't
Russell Hamster.
Yeah. if you aren't a dynamic, elite, game-changing scorer or defender, and you make a lot of money, right? It is not great for team building. It's not great for team building. And so, like, they're going to move you. And I think after what you saw in the playoffs, and like some of that, to be fair to Tyler, is the team dedicated like some of their defensive focus on him. But hold on, no. What I'm saying is some of the game plan was to take him out of the game.
I watched the Cavs all year.
Where it got tricky, hold on. Where it got tricky, where it got tricky is the Ty Jerome being on you on defense. When Max Strus is on you on defense. There ain't DeAndre Hunter that's on you on defense. Like, there were some guys, they were getting away with some shit that was just straight locking you the fuck up, right? And just outplaying you.
Yep.
And then also, too, there's a part of you quitting in game 3 and game 4, right? You came out hot with 4 points, and that's what you ended up with. That was just it. So I do think when you talk about that, and then also, too, talking about the money that you quote unquote deserve. You only gave us 70 games. That's the first time you've done it. Like, you're gonna have to show exactly what you're okay. Yeah, you have to show exactly what you're worth, and I don't think that they are on the same page on it. I mean, Pat talked about, we haven't made a commitment, right, as far as the max, and he talked about what max guys are and all that. But to make that long story shorter, I think their time with each other is coming to an end. And I think based off of what we've seen in the league, that is why, based off what you saw from him in the last two playoffs and his history with the Heat,
right,
is why. Either that's going to come by game one of the season or by the trade deadline when a team, like Brian Fonseca has said, is like desperate for a scorer that needs to get them over the finish line. Yeah.
But we should say he's a good player. Like, there is no, he's a good player.
Welcome to the show, Kyle Scarlet.
Listen, we about to wrap. I don't even know.
I just came to listen.
But he's a good player. But for what you need, the money that he's gonna cost and all these things to flush out a full team, because look at what we just saw in the finals. 2 completely full teams that could literally just go 10 deep if they want to.
Right.
So you can't have you can't just have, you can't have 2 guys on your team taking up all the money.
Right. No, and it's hard. He's a guy that's been hard to count on, just because the injuries, the lack of playoff performances as well. And he's just like, there's a limit defensively, and he can't even get neutral there. Right. And we're in year 7. Right. I also just think, like, Ethan has talked about a hypothetical, I think he said like a 3 for 105, similar to like Jalen Green, and that's around 35 million a year. His last year he's making 33 million. Well, that's barely a pay raise for a guy who is more accomplished than Jalen Green, and like his agent would be doing him a disservice to accept that. Like, I think the start of the conversation is 40 million. I don't know how far apart Tyler believes and his agents are. But I think the start of that is 40 million. If the Heat want to pay that, if Tyler wants to accept that, then that's between them. But the 3 for 150 from Tyler, I think that's he's asking for a lot there.
Yeah.
Chat saying Green was overpaid. That is fair. But that's the market. That's literally the market.
I mean, are they similar players? Right? Like,
no, I'm just comparing the contract.
Well, no. Granted. But the reason people didn't want Green's contract for the most part was because of the amount and that he doesn't really play defense. So not that they're exactly the same, but if you're lining up to give Tyler, who plays even less defense, similar money, I don't know why you wouldn't learn from someone else's mistake.
The Heat don't even learn from their own mistakes.
We're going to find out.
All right. One quick question here from the chat. Why is the asking price so high on Wiggins, or is that just Laker tax? I think it's a fair price. The first round pick in Dalton, I think it's all just negotiations. That you ask for the stars and you'll be okay with the clouds. So I think the Heat are really just going to get that first round pick, and they really want the protections on it. Chat says, why does no one have an issue with Bam's max contract at 50 to 59 million?
Oh, brother.
This contract will cause roster building issues soon if he doesn't live up to it now. Well, he's not making that yet, so he's still,
so that's not even.
But even still, it's 50 million a year. It's about 25% of the cap. With rising, he's a two-way player. He's top 5 in DPOY last 5 years.
Hey, I know we about to get out of here, right?
Yeah, we are.
But I ain't gonna let y'all speak on Bam's name like that, brother. He started off the season rough, right? It was very rough for him. We can be honest about that.
Of course.
From January to the end of the season, Bam was a 20-10 player on high efficiency. And he also made 50+ threes from January to the end of the season. What the fuck are y'all talking about? His defensive metrics were
Eternal. To add to you, the little game where they banned Jimmy for sure, like the Magic game, from that point on to the rest of the season, Bam was like 40% from three on 4 attempts a game. And he was awesome. And you know, they weren't playing well, but that wasn't all on him.
Right.
But also, like, I feel like people forgot, like, used the first 2 months to hold that against him as if he didn't have a fucking resume before that, as if he didn't have didn't help get them to 2 finals, another Eastern Conference Finals, been to multiple All-Star games.
Remember,
gold medals.
He was there.
Yeah.
When we needed him, he was available and playing.
Yeah. He's there. Like, you look at it, you stack up his resume from 2020 to now, from this thing, it's Jimmy, Bam, and everybody else.
untrained eyes.
Yeah.
Before we go, though, I want to ask Tiff,
please.
If the Heat are able to get Kuminga, right, and now you have 21-year-old Khalil, 22-year-old Nico, 22-year-old Kuminga, Tyler, Bam, Cash, Jaime, presumably, if he's still on the roster, Pella, he's still on the roster.
First of all, I don't think Tyler and Kuminga can play together. That's number one. But if you've watched both of them play, you'll know what I'm talking about. But continue.
I miss Duncan. Well, we were gonna get to this question anyways.
I haven't potted in a while, and I'm in the playroom, so I guess I'm being silly.
They both gonna look off Bam anyway.
Yeah. Somebody so I saw somebody say Kuminga's gonna miss Bam inside for like 5 dunks, and I'm just and it's gonna piss us all off.
Yeah.
And I'm just getting ready for it. Real quick though, I'm glad you brought that, Eternal, because you know we've talked briefly about the Dame buyout potential. Bradley Beal's in the news. Kuminga sign and trade as still hasn't been resolved yet. I still think Kuminga's going to the Kings or the Bulls. But let's list your top 3 preferences for those guys. Kuminga, Beal on a buyout, Dame on a buyout. What's your preference? We'll start with Kyle, since you just joined us.
I don't like the Dame thing mainly because I don't know what
No, we're not explaining. We're not explaining.
No,
we're just listening.
Just
We
preferences.
listening.
Yeah, just preferences.
Like list of preferences.
Yeah.
You're too late for that shit, Kyle.
Yeah.
You're right. I kind of don't want any of them.
Okay, there you go.
I kind of don't want any of them.
Eternal.
I'll explain. Y'all would know, but I don't think I want any of them.
Not to explain. I'm just gonna say none of the other 2 make sense. I think Kuminga makes a lot of sense in Miami. Keep it short, Tiff. Give me 30 seconds. Put 30 seconds on the clock. Or 24. I can make it 24. Don't matter. But I think Kuminga in Miami is going to unleash more of his game than he did in Golden State for a lot of reasons, and a lot of reasons that we saw.
It's one ball.
There he is. There he is. But
shot clock violation. Come on.
I got it.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna say honestly, if it's give me Bill if it's a buyout, because then you have the ability to do other things.
I'll take Bill on the buyout. He can play without the ball too, and he can shoot, and they don't have shooters. That's my biggest thing. They need shooting. This build. This is why I don't have faith in them if the roster can't change drastically. But we want to thank our special guest, Eternal Bast, for being on the show today. Thank you for coming on.
Dean Millard.
He came out with his Otto Octavius glasses. It's all love, Eternal. We appreciate you coming on.
What's her name from? Wait, what's her name for the Incredibles with the wig, the page boy,
and the mode?
Edna. He got his Edna glasses on.
No capes. The Miami Heat start their summer league championship defense on Saturday versus the San Antonio Spurs. Eternal, I assume you will be on playback just because you're always on playback.
Yes, I will be on playback for that, and possibly in Las Vegas.
Ooh,
yeah,
fancy.
Yeah.
Reporting live.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
Shout out, Eternal. Do you have anything you want to plug? Anything? Where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Eternal Bast. You can also find me on Blue Sky at Eternal Bast. You can follow us on Playback at playback.tv/5 Reasons. Come join us there. Always, we have a good time. Wish more Miami Heat people would come over there and join us, but I ain't saying shit.
Man, I've been in the chat, but y'all ignore me.
Cal came.
I did.
We'll do
it's always fun, man. It's always love seeing y'all. Y'all do great work. Always proud of y'all, man. Always tuning in to support. Yeah. Peace.
Appreciate you. Chat's asking any draft beat plans for Summer League. We will be doing some playbacks. Maybe we'll discuss some crossovers with Eternal on a future date. And we're definitely going to be potting after games, though. So tune in for that. Kyle, is there anything you want to plug? You're on a lot of other podcasts these days. I've seen you pop up on Twitter live a few times.
Oh, man. So I guess this would be low-key competing, but I'm doing Draft Stack. So we're covering...
hell no. Get him out of here. Competing? Get out of here.
We're already... But we are already covering 2026 draft and looking at guys, especially with the FIBA games. So look out for pods on that. Yeah, and look out for some content from Intangible IQ Hoops. I have some things coming down the pike, so we'll see.
Nice. Eternal Chat says you forgot your myspace.com/Eternal Bast. Is Kaz in your top 8 already? That's an old head ass tweet joke. Tiff,
yes.
Where can the people find you?
I'm coming live from the playroom right now. This is what I'm doing.
Fresh out the box.
Fresh out. Listen, I have no idea. If the Heat do something, I'll pop on. If they don't do something, I ain't gonna pop on. But I'm planning with Franky. We are gonna do this. I'm putting it on the spot right now. I'm saying it live, so it's gonna happen. So me and Franky gonna do a big ass. We're gonna do a big ass first half of the season W show during the All-Star break.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna figure it out.
Let's do it.
So we're gonna figure that out. But other than that,
shout out to the W. They hooping.
Speaking of figuring it out, I hope the Aces figure this out soon because they're down 18 points right now. And I'm pissed.
It ain't Asia's fault.
It ain't Asia's fault. All right, guys. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll pop in. We'll do emergency pods right now. We're trying to lock in a consistent schedule moving forward. We recognize our mistakes. We're not blaming Jimmy. We're not blaming G. We're not blaming Alphonse Sidney. We were not satisfied as a podcast with this past season's coverage, and we are working on a lot to fix things. G talked about this on a previous pod, but we are looking for new talent. We are looking for interns. We are looking for graphic design. If you were good with video editing, anything like that, please send your resume to miamiheatbeat@gmail.com or tweet it, message G, message myself. I be Franky G on Twitter or Blue Sky. We'll help you out. We'll send you if something happens, we'll communicate with you guys. G's already gotten a few resumes. Please send them out. If you know somebody that needs some college credit, we can help with that. We just helped Pablo the intern. He's working now, so he's no longer the intern. Chat says trade G for Brady in a second. Oh my God, Ethan would never.
Exactly.
We love y'all. Stay beautiful.